historic day in Washington, D.C. It is, as many of you know, January 6th. It is January 6th. And as you can see, once again, a blanket of angry white descending on the Capitol. And this white, oddly enough, not as disruptive. It did snarl traffic, but a lot less bear spray and Confederate flags. Of course, it is January 6th. It is the day that traditionally we now pretend that we knew was a big deal in terms of certifying the elections. Be honest. Before that insurrection, you had no idea that was a ceremony. You had no idea there was a January 6th ceremony or what it did or why it did. Now you just got to act like, oh, yes, the reading of the election. So important. But let's get to it. It always begins with the traditional children's procession, where they bring in boxes filled with the cremated remains of their dead pets. And then they dump them, all the ashes, on the speaker's desk. And then the speaker blows on the dust until the name of the president-elect is conjured in the mist. America is a wondrous land. But it's good to see them bringing in the boxes there. Nice to know that democracy now has pallbearers. So trenchant. Of course, the ultimate indignity of this January 6th is that Donald Trump's opponent, Kamala Harris, because she is the vice president, serves as the master of ceremonies to this. Really, you are a very reactive and sad group. The empathy is off the charts with this group. Kamala Harris has to be the master of ceremonies. But it does suck.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris
That's gotta sting. She's like, I can hear you. God damn, it's like attending your own funeral. And even the mourners are like, woohoo! I can't imagine anything that would be more uncomfortable than standing there while the crowd applauds your opponent.
Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
Wait, that sounded louder. There's a lot of joy in that room. I think she can still win this thing. She just needs to find like 130,000 votes in Georgia. And then, some in Michigan and Pennsylvania, maybe Wisconsin, maybe that's the flip North Carolina. But ultimately, the certification ceremony that we all look forward to every 4 years, since I was little, went off without a hitch. Because it's amazing how smoothly our democracy can work when you don't act like a little bitch when you lose. Not naming names, just saying. But it was lovely to begin this new political year on a peaceful and calm note, because the actual new year was really quite rougher. The hopeful dreams of a peaceful new year filled with love and camaraderie of people in Times Square holding in their pee for 12 hours, shattered by a terrorist attack at 3:15 a.m. in New Orleans. The attack was sudden and horrific and sent law enforcement scrambling to find the perpetrators and viewers scrambling to find out if the perpetrators, once found, would validate or invalidate their previously held political viewpoints.
And we are hearing local reports that the suspect has been named as Shamsud Din Jabbar, which would indicate Middle Eastern descent.
Oh, would it? You don't believe he's of the Mayflower Din Jabbars? The Connecticut Din Jabbars? I'm going over to the country club today. We're going to play around with Din Jabbar. So, point one, MAGA.
The FBI confirming that an ISIS flag was located in that Ford F-150 pickup truck when the attack occurred.
ISIS flag, that's 2-0 MAGA. It's best of 5. Papa needs a brand new reason to deport everybody.
We do know that the vehicle crossed through Eagle Pass, Texas, crossed the border 2 days ago.
A radical Muslim named Din Jabbar illegally crossing the border to commit violence against Americans. Yahtzee! And while normally the right, in tragedy, would caution us to take a moment for thoughts and prayers for the victims and not politicize it, that's only when they think they're on the wrong side of this shit.
The Biden administration has created an environment that allows things like this to happen.
Mr. Trump is blaming the Biden administration's open border policies.
We've been saying for over a year now that there's likely to be a terrorist attack on our home soil with an open southern border.
No time for thoughts and prayers. Deploy the Continental 48 cloche. That's called a cloche. It's, you know, in the diner, and you're like, I'll have that pie, and they act like someone's going to steal the pie, and they put it under that thing. That's called a cloche, and that's the basis of the joke. Of course, no. You know. What I love most about this job is the ability to educate on the various paraphernalia found in diners. Of course, the judgment that the networks came to was, of course, rushed to.
Now we're hearing from multiple reports that he was an American citizen, he was in the Army Reserves, that he wasn't some illegal immigrant that came across the border.
Lift the cloche! No, the cloche has been deployed. You must lift the cloche. Or the thing in the All right. So it didn't turn out to be the ironclad argument for sealed borders that the right was hoping for, but fear not. More chaos to come.
Breaking news out of Las Vegas, where a Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump Towers Hotel.
Cybertruck exploded outside a Trump hotel. So even terrorists are political cartoonists now? A little on the nose, don't you think? I mean, come on. I think it's pretty clear what's going on here. Have at it, boys.
John, I'm going to point out the obvious. He goes to the Trump resort in Las Vegas. Donald Trump, he's in a Tesla Cybertruck. Elon Musk.
This was a statement. They was making a statement about Trump, about Elon.
Should the FBI be treating this as another attempt on Trump's life, even though he wasn't at the hotel at the time?
Why the I saw a car accident outside his hotel in New York. Let's make that number 4 or 5. Who cares what's really happening? But unfortunately, even for that narrative, the statement by the bomber was actually, I think Trump is awesome.
Officials say the man who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside a Vegas Trump hotel will express support for President-elect Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Saying Americans need to, quote, rally behind President-elect Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Far be it from me to tell someone how they should express their affection. I've worked for years to become more open. But even I know that blowing up someone's shit in front of more of their shit, it's what we in the therapy business call a mixed message. So neither end of the illegal immigrant anti-American parlay has hit. But don't let reality ruin a good narrative.
The person who committed the attack was indeed an American citizen. But let's not take our eyes off the bigger picture here, which is that over the past 4 years, millions of people have come into the country.
My goodness, what else don't we know? If these are a couple of people who are homegrown, what don't we know of all of these people who have come across the border?
Yes. Clearly we have a problem over here. So what about over there? It turns out that American-born extremists not only show we have to close the border, they also take the wind out of the left's other favorite policy prescriptions.
This also should lay bare the idea that gun control is going to make us safer. You know, we're using, what are we going to do? Start registering people for or giving background checks for people to get cars?
I saw it. You got halfway through that point, and you're like, no. I could almost see it when your brain was, I don't want to go down that road. No, what are we going to have to do now? Register our... abort. No, don't say abort. I don't know what's happening. Putting on a one-man show over there. Well, what are we going to make people get licenses for their... What it seems to show is that people have a tremendous ability to fit whatever happens into their predetermined dogmatic worldview. It's not a rush to judgment as much as like a gag reflex, which is why in the immediate aftermath of these terrible events, we all wait to see whose worldview will be validated. And it makes it doubly frustrating that the FBI feels the need to play into the demand for immediate answers when they couldn't possibly know them yet. I give you the FBI 4 hours after the attack.
This is not a terrorist event.
Just say you don't know yet. Because a couple of hours later, when you find out what's really going on, you're just going to look dumb.
The FBI, we are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism.
Okay. No harm, no foul. It's not like you played into the fears of co-conspirators out there lining the streets with explosives.
We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible.
The FBI has recovered video, surveillance video, that appears to show three men and one woman appearing to help put IEDs, what are believed to be IEDs, at locations in the French Quarter.
Holy shit, IEDs in the French Quarter. I guess I have no option but to violently confront anyone in the vicinity that I believe is operating a sleeper cell.
Police interviewed those 4 individuals and now believe that they just were bystanders who happened to look suspicious.
But I already killed them. Look, they happen to look suspicious in New Orleans? Oh, what were they wearing, beads in the winter? Little sparkle and glitter? What were they carrying around, musical instruments and seemingly too upbeat for a funeral?
It turns out those were just patrons on the street that were looking inside the coolers.
Yes, nothing more suspicious than people on Bourbon Street at 3 a.m. looking inside coolers. I also arrested some ladies who were lifting up their shirts, clearly signaling to the other jihadists. These attacks are really frightening and add to this feeling of societal tenuousness that we've all been ingesting since, I'm going to go with the creation of Facebook. Almost more frightening is that we can't place these attackers into the normal, neat boxes of disturbed, bullied loners. Not only do they not fit into neat ideological packages, they almost seem uncomfortably normal. The ISIS supporting Jabbar, this is him from a while back.
I'm Shamsuddin Jabbar, property manager with Blue Meadow Properties and team lead at the Midas Group at Core Realty. I just want to say hello and let you know a little bit about me. So I'm born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and now live in Houston.
Here's the crazy thing. He's the terrorist. I'd have bought real estate from this guy. He seems totally run-of-the-mill, guy who's been life coached up. He's even got the, if you notice there in the background, the basic bitch motivational discipline posters. Go all in, take responsibility, be disciplined. Terrorists generally don't have those posters. I don't remember bin Laden having to remind himself to hang in there. By the way, this is true. Just as a side note, that is the original Hang In There Baby poster. I don't remember. I had one that was like a super cute orange kitty, but this one, it really seems more of a, like, demanding you hang in there. Like it's in black. Like it doesn't really look like a kitty trying to, like, give you more. It looks more like De Niro and Cape Fear doing, like, pull-ups in a cell and being like, I will you up. Like, that is not, that cat. That cat would, if you died, that cat would eat you and crawl inside and go to sleep. Although I guess most cats would. All right, look. I don't like these terrorists and killers having such vibrant digital trails. I don't want them to be relatable. The Cybertruck bomber guy.
You see some of the photos on Facebook. He did a lot of traveling. There's the one photo of him that was actually taken in Thailand.
I nap. And look at Luigi Mangione. This guy was a hooded professional assassin with a silencer, and now we got to watch him deliver the valedictory speech at his high school?
As I conclude my speech, I have to remember that a valedictory, by definition, is a farewell.
By the way, where did that kid go to high school? They all look like extras in a consent video. I'm not trying to be a dick, but it looks like everybody in the background looks like they're about to go like, all right, girls, who wants some grain alcohol? And now we all got to wait around on pins and needles for their motive. Have to know why. What's the road from real estate wannabe to the West is decadent? And they have left manifestos, but their manifestos suck. Luigi Mangione, who was allegedly so obsessed with healthcare costs that it drove him to murder, here's what he wrote in his manifesto.
Frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument.
I'm just the muscle. I'm not the idea. I don't know anything about it. I just know, you know. Finally, someone willing to stand up for what he isn't really sure he believes in. To be quite honest, I urge the news media, don't even call these manifestos. These are an insult to manifestos. Throwing something down on your notes app is not a manifesto. You know what? Say what you want about Ted Kaczynski. The man put in the work. Cabin with no plumbing, 35,000 words, old school typewriter, double-spaced, bibliography, table of contents. I think it had been blurbed by other crazy people. If you have to read one manifesto this year, Charles Manson. These other guys are out there, hey, ChatGPT, write me a concise screed against the healthcare industry as though it were a Drake rap. Like, this is... The point is, I don't know what's going on here. Where normal-seeming people have a setback in their life, end up online, down some rabbit hole, the algorithm amplifies their anger and fears, and all of a sudden, you're releasing a half-assed manifesto and shooting the place up. It doesn't have to be this way. So a plea to all the would-be terrorists that are out there. Hey, girl. Down on your luck? Girlfriend left you, job's a dead end, spending a lot of time watching whatever YouTube autoplay is showing you. And now you've got some ideas. How about you don't kill everybody? Just do what everybody else does in that situation. Get a podcast. That way, nobody dies. You get a podcast, nobody dies, you can still terrorize people. And no, I do not want to be on it.
When Donald Trump won in November, it was largely on the promise of improving the everyday lives of American people, from fixing inflation after it was already fixed to fighting the nationwide crime wave that he made up. And today, in a press conference from Mar-a-Lago, Trump announced one of those common sense kitchen table policies that Americans have been waiting for.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Yeah, we have been so concerned about all the scary things that Trump's going to do. We forgot he's also going to do some really stupid things. I guess Gulf of America does have a ring to it, as in there was another horrific oil spill in the Gulf of America. But okay, fine. Let's rename the Gulf, I guess. Now let's focus on the price of eggs.
President-elect Donald Trump urging America's northern neighbor to, quote, merge with the U.S., saying many people in Canada love being the 51st state.
Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like.
What? That would go all the way from the Arctic down to the Gulf of America. This is insane. Canada can't become part of America. That's the country I pretend to be from when I'm traveling abroad. Why does Trump want Canada so much? When he hears that Canadians love pouring gravy on their poutine, he knows they're not talking about poutine, right? By the way, this isn't the first time he's mentioned this. He's been tweeting about making Canada the 51st state for months now. Side note, I'm impressed that he currently knows there are 50 states, but surely Canada's not going to just take this. Prime Minister Trudeau, tell him what's up.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister.
God damn it. God damn it. Well, welcome to the United States, Canada. Locker rooms are over there. Our Wi-Fi password is HOC2us69420. And you pay for health care now. But no, Trudeau didn't resign just to make it easier for Trump to take over Canada. The fact is he resigned because he's very unpopular now. And if he ran again, he'd have to face this guy, Pierre Poilievre. He's the leader of the Conservative Party, and based on this interview, he's a pretty intimidating dude.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap. A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
like who?
I don't know who, but
well, you're the one who asked the question, so yeah. You must know somebody.
God damn, that's a power move. I haven't seen someone dominated like this since I watched Baby Girl. Tell you what, America's not getting Canada from him. Get on your knees. You're our province now. Good girl. But back to Donald Trump, who is now demanding to rename the Gulf of Mexico and take over Canada. Not to mention, a couple of weeks ago, Trump expressed interest in taking over the Panama Canal, because why stop at just controlling birth canals? But that's it, right? That's it. Now we can get back to the price of eggs.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security.
Of course we do. Of course we do. Greenland is vital for our national security. It's the only way to stop Santa Claus from waltzing on down from the North Pole and our wives. And if you're wondering, wait, Trump keeps saying America's broke. How is he going to pay for Greenland? Oh, he's not.
Donald Trump said he might use military force to take control of the Panama Canal and Greenland.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No, I can't assure you on either of those two.
What? He just got elected and he's going to invade Greenland? Look, I am no war expert. I'll leave decisions regarding our military to alcoholic Fox News hosts, but I am almost certain invading Greenland is insane. Insane. At the very least, it would be nice to have heard about this during the campaign. I mean, you had time to tell a 10-minute story about Arnold Palmer's shower penis, but not one story about bombing Greenland? That would have been good to know. As As you've probably heard, Trump has decided that his first big policy proposal will be buying or perhaps invading Greenland. It's the kind of nonsense no one should take seriously, but Trump said it, so I guess we're all doing this.
It would be exciting if Greenland was part of the United States.
I think that the people of Greenland should be honored.
This, to me, could be Donald Trump's Louisiana Purchase. Same size as the Louisiana Purchase in square miles.
Greenland, strategically, it makes sense because it's halfway point between our country and the UK. So it would make sense to have that for war purposes.
Yes. War purposes. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I guess we should annex any place that's halfway between us and somewhere else. This is just so sad. I know she's trying to be supportive, but you could tell even Ainsley thinks this is a bad idea. And this is a lady excited to marry Sean Hannity. Can you imagine how exhausting it is to treat every one of Trump's dumb ideas like it's a work of art? Oh, sweetheart, what a beautiful drawing. It looks like the Louisiana Purchase. I'm going to put it on the fridge. But while the Pentagon draws up plans for a war against puffins, Trump is giving us a reminder about what his leadership looks like during times of crisis. Because while everyone else is deeply concerned with what's going on in Los Angeles right now, Trump is handling the tragedy like the statesman that he is.
Donald Trump is now weighing in on the horrific fires in Los Angeles County, and he's laying the blame on California's Democratic governor.
In a social media post referring to the governor as news scum and writing, he is the blame for this.
Yeah. In the midst of chaos, Donald Trump is taking action by opening up the strategic nickname reserves. Thank you, sir. Although, quick question for Trump. Do you mean new scum or news cum?
I'm going to come.
Got it. Even though we can't count on the incoming president, some people are stepping up, and it's always heartening to see everybody coming out to help their neighbors. And I do mean everybody.
It's an important announcement I wonder if I could just make. Here on Palisades Drive, if anybody has a car and they leave their car, leave the keys in the car. So a guy like me can move your cars and get them up there so that these fire trucks can get up there. It's really, really important.
Thank you for talking to us live, sir. What's your name?
My name is Steve Gutenberg.
Holy shit! Steve Gutenberg? The actor Steve Gutenberg moving abandoned cars out of the way for firefighters? That is amazing, okay? And not only that, but if anyone abandons a baby, he and two other men will raise it for them. Jinx will ensue. Of course, as great as that is to see, officials are warning that now that the fire has reached Steve Gutenberg, it's only 2 degrees from Kevin Bacon. Now, if you're wondering why Trump isn't focused on helping Californians, it's because he's focused on the people who need him most, his insurrectionists.
Trump didn't rule out pardons for those who were charged with committing acts of violence on January 6th, 2021.
Are you planning to pardon those who were charged with violent offenses?
Well, we're looking at it. We'll be looking at the whole thing, but I'll be making major pardons, yes.
Yeah, on the one hand, it's absolutely shameful that Trump would pardon these rioters, but you have to remember, these people are his ride or dies. They stormed the Capitol and they shat on a desk for him. No one's ever shat on a desk for me, not once. And I took out a Craigslist ad. For him, it's all about loyalty. Plus, he's going to need a personal army for when he invades Greenland. Those puffers aren't going to pepper spray themselves. Let's kick things off with a historic day in Washington, D.C., where former President Jimmy Carter's funeral was being held in the Washington National Cathedral. And look, I don't know how you measure the life of a man, whether through their personal accomplishments or the lives they touched, but if you measure a life by the VIP guest list at your funeral, then Jimmy Carter was a
him!
Funeral services fit for a president. Today's funeral service bringing together 5 living presidents: Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump, to honor Carter, the longest-lived commander-in-chief.
Wow, that is incredibly rare to have 5 American presidents in the same room together, and even rarer to have Donald and Melania in the same room together. Kudos to President Carter. And it seemed pretty uncomfortable that they all had to sit next to Donald Trump. Just think about the history there. Trump tried to put her in prison, accused him of murder, said he was the secret Muslim founder of ISIS, said she was pretending to be black, ended his entire family dynasty, almost got him murdered, tried to overthrow his presidency, and paid off a porn star behind her back. And by the way, basically all of them have said that he's Hitler. So yeah, it's a seating chart so awkward that it probably had them asking, is there any extra room in that coffin? Although there was one surprising moment of chemistry.
During Carter's funeral, President-elect Trump chatted with former President Barack Obama. Of course, we don't know what they discussed, but the interaction seemed friendly, with both presidents talking and occasionally smiling.
Someone's trying to make Elon jealous. It's a little weird for Obama, though, right? To go from this guy is future Hitler to, oh man, cool story, future Hitler. And by the way, Kamala noticed. That funeral music was for Carter or for her. Kamala did the look that I do when someone behind me at the movie theater is talking. I didn't pay $20 to hear you sing Defying Gravity. Also, this is Conclave. Why are you singing Defying Gravity? She did not seem happy to be sitting that close to Donald Trump. She basically spent the rest of the day flipping through that funeral program like she was going to find 44 electoral votes in it. But of course, the story dominating the news right now is the Los Angeles wildfires. There's been so many challenges as LA workers try to control these fires, like water shortages and manpower shortages. But there's one thing that we have an endless supply of: good old-fashioned, made in America blame. And of course, one of the country's leading blame producers is Donald Trump.
I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water.
Okay, we'll come back to the smelt, but can we just talk about how weird it is that this senator is staring so hard at Trump the entire time he's talking? That's the kind of behavior that makes me change subway cars. And for the record, no, the LA fires have nothing to do with smelt. But in Trump's defense, words are hard. And smelt only has 1 syllable, while climate change has 3. Now, obviously, Trump supporters aren't just blaming fish for the wildfires. They're also going back to the hits.
Of course, we haven't even mentioned the idiotic DEI priorities that have infected the hiring of senior personnel throughout the state.
She's the first female LGBTQ plus fire chief. She's been putting her firefighters through DEI training.
Focusing on DEI. This state has been hijacked by the extreme left. Remember, Karen Bass is the socialist mayor who said Castro's a great guy. It's DEI, that DEI, which is so sickening. What does DEI have to do with putting out fires? But you got a city fire chief who thinks DEI is the #1 issue. It's insulting.
Okay, Leo, you're at a 2.0 right now. I'm going to need you to bring it down to a 1.0, okay? The this whole argument is so annoying. Women can't be firefighters? They let dogs be firefighters. Society is so hypocritical. Although, to be fair, there are some signs that DEI in firefighting is a little over the top.
Remember, only gay Muslims can prevent forest fires.
Smokey Bear, more like Wokey Bear, am I right? Thank you. Honestly, these people really seem to think that if anyone in the LA Fire Department isn't a straight white man, it must be that the mayor used lower standards when hiring them. In fact, they're so obsessed with this, it's getting a little creepy.
70% of our hires have been based on DEI, not muscularity, not experience, not size, not competence.
This guy's talking about firefighters like the only thing they do is pose for sexy calendars. Not muscularity, not size, not girth, not cut or uncut.